I'm Don Burrows, back with more on the history of basketball, how it grew at lightning speed in every phase, age, race, gender. As we record in 2024, I'm a women's college basketball coach, so I've been lucky to study the women's game and its history. The women's game had a swift start, basketball merging quickly into female participation. Now, this surprised me given the era of stuffy suppression of women when social standards dictated that backyard badminton was just rigorous enough for the frail female. Such a myth, and Naismith writes in his book Origin and Development, women were ready and anxious for the exercise of basketball.
It was scarcely a month old when it was taken up by the girls.
It was young teachers from a nearby elementary school who, while walking to lunch, heard shouts and cheering coming from inside what they considered the neighborhood gym, the Springfield, Massachusetts Training Center for Men. The court is located in the basement of the Y. So when the ladies step through this door on street level, they're actually in the gallery or the balcony. They can look down on the action and have an excellent view of the game. Naismith writes,
"It was only a few minutes until they were clapping and cheering for one side or the other.
The women visit daily for about 2 weeks. Then they ask to participate. He schedules them for an hour of time." He writes,
"The girls shot the ball, but none of the other fundamentals were observed. There was a lot of running with the ball."
The 13 rules had just been published, and few were aware of how to play the game fundamentally. Some of the stenographers from the Y, which is an all-female job, they book an hour. They need to invite some friends. One of the female friends is Miss Sherman, who would go on to become Mrs. Naismith. His wife played the game more than he ever did. He had played just twice in his lifetime when he died in 1939. Of course, he was an avid observer of the game, but his wife played more often, especially those early open gyms at the Y Training Center before they were married in 1894. Women also start playing at the college level in the early 1890s. Smith College, all female, in Northampton, Massachusetts. The Smith College Director of Physical Education is a 23-year-old firebrand. She is Senda Berenson, an energetic leader, sometimes called the petite pioneer, in leading women into a more enlightened age of their long struggle to be allowed to compete athletically. Conflicting reports on how she met Naismith and therefore how she discovered the game to bring it to Smith College. One I read declares Miss Berenson observed the game being played at the YMCA Training Center in Springfield. She was scouting it. But she does not talk to Naismith. She just watches. Smith College is just 20 miles down the road, but in 1892, I'm not sure how difficult that journey would be. Certainly not as easy as we think it is today, 20 miles on a freeway, 20 minutes. But it seems after a trip like that, she would have introduced herself to Naismith, or she would have let him know that she was coming and she would like to meet with Naismith. Encyclopedia.com writes a version I had always believed to be true.
Berenson met with Naismith on several occasions throughout 1892 to discuss basketball. As a result, Berenson organized a trial game for her female students at Smith, March 1893, using the same rules that Naismith had devised for his male participants.
Remember that last line, Naismith rules were used. But researching thoroughly has proven I was wrong to believe this report. This report is more legend than fact. Why? Because the most convincing evidence is the article Senda read about the game in the Y's monthly journal, The Triangle. The famous 4-page article written by James Naismith on this new game with 13 rules, January 1892 publication. Well, by March 1892, that journal was renamed Physical Education, but whatever the journal's name, it was widely circulated to YMCAs across the USA and into Canada. Miss Berenson read about it in that publication on the Smith campus in March 1892, which directs us to this absolute fact. Both attended a national conference or symposium on physical education at Yale in nearby New Haven, Connecticut. It was 80 miles for Senda, 60 for Naismith, and he may have been a guest speaker as he had found fame within the phys ed community for inventing the new game. Naismith, from origin and development.
In 1893, a physical education convention was held in the Yale Gymnasium, and among the directors at the convention was Miss Senda Berenson from Smith College. She became greatly interested in the game, and I told her that the girls in Springfield were playing it.
Senda does not know women are playing in Springfield until Naismith lets her know, so it seems she did not get to the YMCA Training Center gym. Naismith is kind and he's encouraging. He's telling her that yes, she should adopt the sport as a team exercise for her female students in her gym class. This was a daring call, as women of the era had to overcome myths. For example, this one espoused by the medical community of the 19th century.
A woman's constitution is entirely different from a man's. And when she wrecks it, she's lost the womanliness that made her lovely. Team athletics unfit women for companionship with men, for marriage and for motherhood.
Senda is navigating these social barriers as she hurtles toward teaching this new game to her female students. Let's connect the various reports discussed earlier. It appears initially she had not seen the game at the Springfield Y, but she had read about the game in the March 1892 journal and then introduces it by March 1892 as a new aerobic exercise in her phys ed class. You might call it the first open gym for women's basketball. Here's the biggest lead, that she is teaching basketball about 3 months after Naismith invents it. A Smith College student wrote a letter, and history found it. The letter is to her mother, dated March 6, 1892, describing a new game they were playing in Miss Berenson's gym class.
Dear Mother, Friday afternoon at the gym we played a game instead of going through the ordinary performances. 2 waste paper baskets were hung, one on either side of the gym about 3 feet above our heads. The object was to get the ball into your opponent's basket and keep it out of your own. It was great fun and very exciting, though the side I was on had the misfortune to be beaten. Love, Josephine.
The letter seems proof that Senda starts teaching the game to her class of women after reading the article. She meets Naismith at Yale 10 months later, 1893. He inspires her. I think because Senda is thrilled that a famous inventor, who she might idolize, is encouraging her. Her adrenaline rush kicks into high gear. She organizes an official game, recognized as the first women's college game ever, March 22nd, 1893. The women played what was described as, quote-unquote, Naismith rules. But for the goals, they hang not peach baskets, but waste baskets. One report said the baskets were hung from the ceiling, but others report thought them nailed to the wall. Not sure how high. That letter from Josephine said 3 feet, but that's a year earlier in an open gym and they're practicing. And since Senda is now playing an official game and Naismith rules, perhaps the basket is 10 feet high for the official game. Although, remember this, hoop height is not in the 13 rules as we discussed in earlier podcasts. On the day of the game, there are similarities to Naismith's original. 2 15-minute halves and a 10-minute halftime, after which the teams switch baskets or ends of the court. But there are differences too. The Smith game is played in prime time, 8 p.m. Wednesday night on the campus with teams already chosen. It's the sophomore class versus the freshman class. Naismith played at noon during his assigned gym class hour. The Smith women wear their normal bloomer gym suit, but to identify a teammate more easily, Senda makes and gives them an armband with different colors, green and an S for the sophomore class, lavender with an F for the freshman class. So the first uniforms for women were bloomers and armbands. Naismith's class of incorrigibles played with the normal Y training school gym gear. Here's another difference. Naismith had 0 spectators at noon, December 21, 1891. He wasn't even sure his men in his class would like the game. But Senda is a world-class promoter. She puts the game in prime time, 8 o'clock, and she decorates her gym with bunting as if President Grover Cleveland might attend. She invites, some say requires, the entire student body to the game. So there were 800 spectators or fans, mostly students, some faculty. The letter-writing Josephine, she did not get to play in the game, but she was among these 800 somewhere in the stands, and not everyone was invited. Even if the president had wanted to attend the game, he was barred. This notice was posted on the gymnasium door.
Notice: gentlemen are not allowed in the gymnasium during basketball games.
Just wouldn't be proper. Oh my gosh. Young men watching women playing basketball and they're wearing armbands? Scandalous. Now back to similarities. A soccer ball is used. The opening jump, the ball is tossed by Senda, as did Naismith. She will ref the game, as did Naismith. He, the first male ref ever. Senda is the first female referee in the game's history. The New York Herald, which was published from 1834 until 1924, quotes a fan who attended the game.
The girls went wild, running madly the entire length of the big floor, batting and grabbing at the ball. Pandemonium existed among the spectators who yelled and cheered at the top of their lungs.
That describes the typical basketball atmosphere to modern day. And the game was exciting. It was close. Shots were called throws at that time. Each throw that made it into the basket was worth 1 point. Here are the ladies who won the first ever women's college basketball game. The proud sophomore class of 95 beat the freshman class 5-4. Which of these players do you think was the Caitlin Clark of her class? Here's the New York Herald Sunday newspaper special report, 4 days after the game was played.
Headline: Smith College, Sunday, March 26th, Northampton. On Wednesday evening, an exciting game of basketball was played by the sophomore and freshman teams. The running track of the gym was crowded with spectators and gay with the colors of the two classes.
The game is so new, the reporter of that article feels it is necessary to explain how the game was played.
The game consists in the two sides trying to get the ball in their respective baskets, which are suspended at opposite ends of the gymnasium, and each side tries to prevent the other from accomplishing this. Every time the ball is put in, it counts as 1 point. All the playing must be done by throwing, as no running while the ball is in the hands is permissible.
I love this coverage, despite the fact that it's 4 days late, and that it's not specific in details that I was hoping to find. For instance, it does not describe how the baskets were suspended, or how high. Nor does it report the game matchup. How many players on the court? 5-on-5, 6-on-6, 7-on-7? All we could find is Senda instructed the game be played under Naismith rules. Although Naismith used peach baskets, and he went 9-on-9 randomly because there were 18 men in his class, so he split it evenly. Our illustration, we went with 9-on-9, waste baskets nailed at 10 feet. It's an action illustration via some historical license. This player looks like she might dribble, but dribbling was not allowed per Naismith rules. No running, no dribbling, only passing and throwing, which would be shooting at the basket. This player is going to have to make a pass from an unusual angle by today's standards. But in 1893, there were no standards. It was brand new. The 13 rules were just over a year old. These players may not have even seen them. They were coached to play by Senda. It's 1909 before unlimited dribbling is permitted. 1901, women could use one dribble. And it just so happens this picture is from 1901. Smith Special Collections allowed us to use this as a guide for our illustration. The game had become a tradition on its campus. Its 8th year. Check out the packed house. Smith College has diligently documented its rich basketball history with what are now rare photographs because there was an awareness that Senda's game was a landmark event that broke barriers and dramatically advanced the cause for female team sports. The new girls or women's game swept the country. By 1895, there were hundreds of women's basketball teams. Then she writes, they give her credit for editing, the rule book Basketball for Women in 1899. Basketball is 2 words until the 1920s when sports writers on the beat just turned it into 1 word. Senda Berenson Abbott, she gets married in 1911, dies at age 85 in 1954. She becomes the first woman inducted into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame in 1985, enshrined as the mother of women's basketball. Her posthumous induction can be viewed on YouTube. Search Senda Berenson Abbott Hall of Fame. Tennessee head coach Pat Summitt, who has just won her first of 8 national titles, is at the front main table, right next to the speaker's podium. So how does the game spread from Smith College to the WNBA to the Hall of Fame? It's a fascinating journey. Part 2 is coming up next post in the near future. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's free for you and it helps me. You can email me any ideas you would like to hear on this channel. My Gmail is on the title page. This channel is The Coach's Road, where basketball coaches travel, along with passionate hoop enthusiasts. Don Burrows, over and out.